Okay, we'll get underway. So, hello and welcome to the FNS40217 Certificate for in Accounting and Bookkeeping information session, designed for prospective and quite possibly current students as well. With me today, I have the head of our educational advice team, Danielle O'Neill. Danielle, welcome.
Thanks, James.
And our Chief Academic and Executive Officer, Iona McKinney. Iona, welcome.
Hi, James. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Great to have you. Now, throughout the course of tonight's session, what we'll do is provide some insight into the course itself, a little bit of industry insight as well. And there will be an opportunity to ask some questions at the end. So if any come to mind, certainly jot them down. There is a function in Zoom, so familiarise yourself with that, where you can submit questions. And what I'll do is I'll put that to our subject matter experts for you on behalf of yourself and everybody else who's listening. So without further ado, let's get started and have a look at the course overview. Iona, I'm going to hand over to you for this one, and so you can talk to us a little bit about the course itself.
Yeah, well, the Cert for Accounting and Bookkeeping is a great course. It prepares people to actually work as bookkeepers, accounts assistants. There's a number of day-to-day practical tasks in it. Students are exposed to MyOb software, which is an accounting software for those that aren't familiar with it. And the course itself includes a really broad range of accounting and bookkeeping skills. And it includes financial reporting, lodging business activity and instalment activity statements, so BAS and GST management, how to administer and manage ledgers, how to use cloud computing solutions, because sometimes our desktop software works very, very differently than our cloud computing software. Processing day-to-day financial transactions such as invoices, purchase orders, remittance advices, creditors' invoices, raising payments, so on and so forth. So what are those really those everyday things that we do as a bookkeeper? Bank reconciliations, how to raise a credit note, how to create a client record. And at the end of the course, the students actually leave the course with the ability to do all of those day-to-day functional bookkeeping and accounting tasks. And, and they also, as part of this course, complete the units of accreditation to become a BAS agent, so they can apply to the Tax Practitioner Board for accreditation as a BAS agent. In having said all this, the other thing that I didn't mention just then, and I should have, is payroll administration. So a lot of people that work in the bookkeeping and accounting industry, and there is a lot of work opportunities out there, also are exposed to doing payroll for small and medium companies. So managing a payroll is also included in the course as well.
Excellent. Now, Iona, we've also got the MYOB logo up there as well. The course obviously takes on some, I suppose, a real practical element with respect to using that software.
So of the 11 units in the course, in 7 of those units, students will actually use MYOB to complete the assessment tasks and do the self-directed learning activities. So as students have moved through the course, they've become very familiar with the software and they're confident in using the software, so they'll be able to transition into a workplace. They might already be in a workplace and they use the software to do some functions but not all. So it also, the course actually supports those students as well. So in every unit, as I said, in 7 of the units, students are actually exposed to utilising that to undertake the accounting functions that are required as part of the course and the bookkeeping functions. And in the cloud computing unit, they're also exposed to the online version of the software as well.
Okay, now Iona, on that theme of units, let's have a look at some of, I suppose, the core units and elective units that actually form part of the course itself. And perhaps a little bit, I suppose, a little bit of insight into why they're there and what some of the advantages of them are.
So if we're working as an accountant or an assistant accountant or a bookkeeper, often we do a range of functions rather than just one single function within an organisation. So instead of just, for example, doing accounts receivable management, we'll do everything from the bank reconciliation to raising a credit note to preparing the BAS to be lodged monthly or quarterly, depending on the type of business. It's fair to say, James, that a number of students undertake this course because in their mind they're thinking about starting their own bookkeeping business as well. So as we developed this course and as we looked at the course structure and with feedback from current students and past students and industry, so the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, for example, we attempted to create a course that prepared students for a number of different roles. So if we're working in one of those broad-based roles, the course actually includes the knowledge and skill to be able to undertake a lot of those those tasks that are required in broad-based roles. So preparing financial reports is pretty, I think, self-explanatory. But interim reports and financial transactions, that's about reconciliation skills. And reconciliation, of course, when we're working as bookkeepers is a very, very important skill because we have to get the numbers right. Working effectively in the bookkeeping and accounting industry introduces us to codes of practice. It introduces us to rules, regulations, the accounting standards, so we know how to prepare those reports. Business activity and instalment activity statements and establish and maintain payroll systems are the two units that make up the BAS accreditation to become a BAS agent. And as I move through the course, one of the things we haven't mentioned is monitoring a service or delivering customer service and how we work in our own work environment. If we are working with any business, we always have internal and external customers. So that communication is very, very important, especially when we're trying to find something. Yeah, somebody's lost a receipt. Somebody didn't save an invoice and send it to us. One of our clients is querying an invoice. So that's what that unit's about, and it's a really great, good fun unit because it actually supports us to build on our existing communication skills and get really comfortable using technology as one of our communication platforms. Obviously, performing financial calculations. Well, if we can't do the sums, we can't do bookkeeping. It's a really important unit. And business tax requirements is just that. So GST, BAS, preparation of returns, asset registers, and depreciation schedules. So that's all part of that unit and how to actually go about that. So the course is a really great course. It's broad-based and it provides an excellent skills base for people wanting to work in the industry or refresh their skills for current knowledge, or people who are thinking of going out on their own and running a bookkeeping service.
Look, that's something you've touched on a couple of times, and I think it's a really nice handover into what we're going to talk about next, and that's the industry and I suppose the job itself. And I mean, the accounting industry is it's really growing, and it's growing in line with demand that's coming from businesses of all sizes. But then there's also that flexibility option as well, which often isn't talked about with respect to, say, bookkeeping and accounting. And that can be one of the true benefits, if that's, I suppose, the path that people are looking at going down with respect to employment. And it might be that that sort of employment lends itself to your lifestyle.
Oh, most definitely. We often find that the course or the cohorts in this course are made up of people from different backgrounds. They have very, very different reasons for doing the course. And some of them want to start their own bookkeeping business because it provides flexibility and portability. And they can actually, do that at part-time or full-time or extra time, however they decide they want to do that. They might be traveling and still want to run their own business, for example. They might be, excuse me, they might actually be moving from one industry to another. So we tend to find that the job roles that often this course actually supports are those roles that are involved with keeping financial records and balancing accounts. Cash flow, lines of credits, managing and producing budgets and operational budgets, marketing budgets, project budgets, invoices, purchase orders, bank deposits, bank reconciliation. So all of those general day-to-day accounting functions that somebody in that works as a accounts payable officer or a receivable or an admin officer for a small business, somebody who actually works wholly as a VAS agent and runs a bookkeeping service or works for one. A number of individuals that work for practice accountants, for example, often also complete this course because it means that in an accounting practice, what they're actually doing is that bookkeeping function for the accounting practice's clients. So there's a lot of roles that this course can actually prepare you for because of the common accounting skills that are across all of those roles. The job outlook for the accounting and bookkeeping industry is quite remarkable. So we're looking at around about a 9.7% growth rate of jobs in demand for this and job openings over the next 5 years, with an average salary of around about 60K per annum. So the course actually provides a good opportunity for people to develop those core skills and those necessary skills that are across industries, but also provide an opportunity for people to enter an area of employment where they'll be able to sustain themselves.
Excellent. Now, something that you mentioned a couple of times, Iona, is the idea of a BAS agent, and that's obviously being able to lodge certain tax documentation on behalf of companies. Now, the course covers off on the qualification and academic requirements, but I also understand that there's some professional practice or work experience requirements as well.
For the BAS agent, yes, and that is simply a matter of completing the course and completing what we call the capstone unit, which provides students with that experience. As they've moved through the course, they have worked in a hands-on way and with strong linkages to trainers and activities and weekly live tutorials with trainers. So they're supported all the way through the course to develop the skills and knowledge necessary. What I call the capstone assessment is where all of the self-directed learning activities and all of the assessment tasks that a student has completed comes together in one final assessment where the student actually demonstrates to us that they've undertaken all of these things and excuse me, and so can complete that the hours needed for that accreditation.
Excellent. Now, look, I've just had a question come in, Iona, and it's from a student who's actually already started, and it's about completing the modules in the order in which they're delivered. So is that important, I suppose, to the outcomes and the learning experience? And then on the flip side of that, what sort of expectations are there with respect to feedback and getting those assignments back?
Okay, so yes, the course is sequenced, but the course can be completed out of sequence. The idea of the course being completed as a sequence or in sequence is that each unit that a student studies, or each module that a student studies, and each of the topics actually build knowledge and skill to do the next one. If a student is wanting to complete the course out of sequence, we strongly suggest that they speak with one of the trainers and they develop a tailored learning plan, because we do understand that some students have a lot more experience than others. And we also, because of that, encourage students, if they're already working, to think about the RPL process as well.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully that answers the that question that's come through. Something else that's really important, certainly with respect to getting workplace ready, and I suppose is that industry alignment. And we've got a couple of association of memberships up here, which Mentor Education, of course, has, and they're very much ingrained, or there's certainly a lot of value in taking advantage of those as part of the qualification.
Oh, most definitely. For myself, I'm a card-carrying member of the Institute of Public Accountants, so I can't encourage students enough to be as students and into your working life in accounting and bookkeeping to become a member of your industry associations. The Institute of Certified Bookkeepers is a wonderful organisation that not only provides additional support in terms of learning, but they also provide their own Good Bookkeeping Guide, links to guidelines, and also they provide opportunities for continued professional development, which is a requirement of the Tax Practitioner Board accreditation. So, excuse me. So each year we're required to do a certain number of hours for continuing professional education and continuing professional development. Both of these industry organisations provide the opportunity to do that. And I really can't stress enough to students that are thinking about doing the course, or students that are thinking about continuing on to do the Diploma of Accounting and Advanced Diploma of Accounting, to actually utilise your industry associations. As you work in the industry, you can also enter into their continuing professional education programs, which in turn is recognised as far as the accreditation bodies are concerned. But certainly membership as a student is free, and I can't encourage students enough to actually take that membership up.
And that's, of course, for the Institute of Public Accountants and the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. So,
most definitely.
Okay, excellent. Now, we've already touched a little bit on the learning material, but if you could go a little bit deeper, that'd be great, and perhaps talk about, what's that online experience going to look like for the student through the learning management system, or what we call the LMS?
So when students log into the learning management system, they'll see that there's learner guides, textbooks that they can actually read online, or they can download onto their own computer and print if they want to. There's instructions for self-directed learning activities, so they can explore the topics deeper. Again, in this course, all the way through the course, we suggest that the student does those self-directed learning activities. The more that we practice using accounting software and doing accounting and bookkeeping functions, the more comfortable we get with them. So a student, if they want to, can create 35 invoices or 3. It's up to you. You can explore it, you can use it, you can flex it, you can push it, you can print your reports. The course actually provides a version of MyOb that the students actually download and they install onto their own computer, so they can use it, utilize it again and again, and practice all of the things that they'll be doing, hopefully as they move out of the course and complete the course and into the workforce. There is some self-directed research where as students are learning, using the learning management system, they explore some topics, and they will also, for example, go to, again, the ICB's website and look at the Good Bookkeeping Guide and guidelines and so on and so forth. There's live webinars. Well, they're not live webinars. They're live tutorials, which are held every week. And the webinars are topic specific, and excuse me, and they're actually held in live time, just the same as the student information system session is in live time. And so students actually have regular contact with a real live breathing trainer rather than recorded webinars. And there is also discussion forums in some of the units, so students can actually exchange information and discuss the topic of the unit and explore it further. So it's pretty extensive. There's video also, there's recorded audio lectures, and there's some self-directed learning activities in there as well, depending on the unit.
Great, and we've just had a question come in. Are there any work placements required as part of the qualification, or?
No. Okay. Students are able to actually complete the qualification by moving through the qualification in the learning management system. Again, we do encourage you to join or to take up the live tutorials with the trainers. Often there's for students that like to discuss things and explore topics. We tend to find that it supports the students to do their work, learn more about the topics, and to complete their assessment tasks, keeping in mind it is online learning. So we don't have a trainer in a classroom 4 days a week in front of the whole class. So that's why we do encourage you to take up those live sessions. Oh, there's our learning management system, James, that I was just talking about.
Indeed. Look, before I hand on over to Danielle to give us a little bit of insight into, I suppose, your personal, how you've, studied and worked remotely and how it's worked for you, I've just got one more question, Iona, and perhaps Danielle, you could answer this as well. And it's from somebody who's watching at the moment, and they've been in another industry. They've had an interest in the accounting and bookkeeping space since school days. We've already had a look and seen that there is considerable employment opportunity over the next 5 years. I mean, how easy is the transition, or what sort of challenges exist in moving from an alternate industry into the bookkeeping and accounting industry?
I'll pass that over to you, Danielle. Would you like to start with that question?
Absolutely. Obviously, it is going to vary depending on where you are and your location and the jobs that are going at the moment. I would strongly recommend having a look at what's actually available right now, because if there's jobs available now, there probably will be when you finished your course. Reach out to some potential employers as well. If I do this course, will you put me on? Will you put me on now? Ask those questions. As we saw in the earlier slides, there is strong growth in this industry. So it is a great industry to look towards changing into. And it's great because you can actually start off in that junior position while you work towards the qualification. So it is, easy is very subjective, but there is a lot of opportunity out there. Joining up with the industry associations, as mentioned before, is really going to strengthen your position as an applicant as well. So it's definitely a good industry to try and get into for a change, that's for sure.
Fantastic. Now, look, they're coming in thick and fast. With respect to the online virtual tutorials, if a student wasn't able to attend the live tutorial, do they have access to recordings?
Most definitely. So students actually cycle through all of the units across the 12-week period, and for each tutorial session, there are recordings available that the students have access to.
Okay, great. And look, this one's probably for you, Danielle. We have the online self-directed, and of course we have the online with the virtual classrooms and tutorials. Can you talk to us a little bit about, I suppose, the difference between the two and who might benefit? And if a student does decide to upgrade, or they'd like to move from a self-directed online learning to a tutorial, do they have that option?
For sure, James, absolutely. So we would recommend that all students take up the tutorials. Even those with all the experience in the world will gain some sort of benefit from the tutorials, whether that be the actual help from going through the learning management system and the content with the trainer, or even a question asked by another student that you hadn't considered that way and getting the answer to that. So strongly recommend attending live and watching the tutorials if that's an option for you. Sometimes we do have students that decide they don't want to take up the tutorial option and are happy just studying online, doing it on their own. If that student changes their mind, they can absolutely upgrade. There's a difference in cost, which is all that's charged at that time. So it can definitely be done.
Okay, great. And look, we've got one more for the BAS agent, Iona, before we move on to, I suppose, the slide which all students are interested in, and that's of course, the assessment slide. Are there any other courses that need to be done, I suppose, outside of the experience for you to register as a BAS agent?
The BAS agent accreditation requires the Certificate for in Accounting and Bookkeeping, or a higher accounting qualification. But whether you have, for example, done a Bachelor of Accounting, to become a BAS agent, you are still, if the institution doesn't have an accredited program, you're still required to come back and do the BAS agent accreditation. So by completing this course with the BAS agent units, you have met the requirements for accreditation as a BAS agent from the Tax Practitioners Board. And yes, the course is accredited. Excellent,
excellent. And of course, here it is, every student's favourite, the assessment slide. We've got quite a number of things up there. Do they apply to all units? Do I have to do them all? What's happening there?
Well, heaven forbid we should make every student complete every one of the things on this list. And this list is actually a bit longer than this because we like to encourage students to take on problem-solving activities and really apply what they're learning to, you know, what they would experience in the workplace. So yes, there are multiple choice questions in some units. There are short answer questions in the assessment tasks, not necessarily in the self-directed tasks. There's case study and scenario responses in some units. Others have projects. There's one unit that we ask students to actually create a portfolio of policies and procedures that relate to accounting and bookkeeping. Role plays do not happen in this course. Practical demonstration is undertaken as part of your activities in the course and completion of the self-directed learning activities and submission of the final assessment. And journal and self-reflection exercises happen via the discussion forums in some of the units, and in others they're actually built into the project and portfolio tasks. So as much as that looks like a very, very long list, for your assessment tasks in nearly all of the units, you would do probably 3 things off that list, but no more.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that insight. Now, with respect to the duration, we've got 795 hours over a 30-week period, and that can be full-time, that can be part-time. Is there flexibility there for students? I mean, life happens. What's the go there?
Danielle, would you like to speak to the course duration?
Love to. Yeah, so James, life does happen, and not everybody can dedicate 795 hours over a 30-week period. So the total duration of our course is actually up to 2 years. Most people don't need that long, but it certainly is there in case it is needed. So most students would tend to finish a bit sooner, but it's quite a generous time frame because life and whatever else goes on in the meantime as well.
Absolutely. And look, whilst I've got you, Danielle, you could talk to us a little bit about the student support and some of the processes and facilities that are available to students.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you've got your question and answer sessions in the tutorials, which are live every week. So they're a really great place to ask your questions because you have the attention of the trainer at the time. We've also got the trainers available Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 via phone or email. Sometimes it is easier, especially with this course, to email in your question with screenshots and things of that nature, and then call up and have a chat when you've both got some time available. So there is always someone there to help, even with the system itself. If you're a bit stuck or you're not really sure how to get into it, the student support team can walk you through it, and there's certainly experts in that area.
I think I should mention just here as well that for students that are really stuck, if you like, or really need to explore something in a different environment, there's also that students are also able to book one-on-one sessions with trainers, and those details are actually in the student information guide as well. So if at any time a student is experiencing challenges, we really encourage them to contact us because we can always support them to find a solution. And we can always look at reasonable adjustment for students that are having different challenges as well. Yeah. So that is always there.
Now, just had another question come in, and what sort of expectations should students have with respect to feedback on their assignments and the time for them to be marked?
So commonly, students will receive their feedback on their assessments within 10 to 14 days of submission. We do have times of the year, of course, where it is very, very busy, like just before Christmas and Easter. If there is a delay to any student's assessment being returned, there's always advice on the website if we are experiencing a period of volume. And there's also, it's a simple matter of just contacting the student support team, who at any time can answer a question like that and give you an idea of whether there is an extended assessment turnaround time, but it would be very rare.
Okay, great. Now, I've got a list of frequently asked questions up here, Danielle, and I'm going to ask you to go through them for us on behalf of everybody who's tuned in tonight, and hopefully that answers everybody's questions. But of course, as a reminder, there will be an opportunity at the end to answer anything which we haven't. So let's start at the very top, government funding.
Absolutely. So short answer to that, James, no, we don't offer any government funding. We are all self-paid enrolments. However, we find that a lot of students tell us we actually end up coming in at a lower cost than taking out, say, student loans or government debt in those things as well. So our courses are really reasonably priced. They also have some great offers that are on at the moment as well, with some really flexible payment plans. And I've jumped ahead on to the next question, I'm sorry. So we do have some really flexible payment plan options as well that we can tailor to suit the students' needs too. So that's certainly an option.
Excellent. Now, I understand tonight that we're going to be making some special enrolment fees for the end of financial year available for tutorial enrolments for everybody who's tuned in tonight. Now, the process for taking advantage of those is getting in contact with yourself or somebody else in the educational advice team. Other than saying that they tuned in tonight's webinar, is there anything else that they need to do?
You really just need to get in touch and have a chat with us. We can walk you through the process. It's all very simple and straightforward, but yeah, just get in touch and we can help you out with that.
And of course, make sure that you mention you tuned in to tonight's webinar.
Yeah, there's no secret code. Just say, I was listening to Danielle, and Iona and James.
Excellent. Now, when can I start, Danielle?
Whenever you like, James, within reason. So if you enrol with us on any business day, we'll get you up and running within 24 hours. Most of the time it's going to be a few hours. If it's over the weekend, we'll do it for you Monday. If there is a public holiday next business day, there's no set terms or intake days that you need to wait for. It's whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Now, this is one that often comes up. Is it all included? Do I have to pay extra for textbooks, assignments, anything like that? Or any hidden fees, Danielle?
There is not. So that is something that we're asked really often because our fees and costs are so reasonable. But yeah, it's really all up front. We often get asked, what's the catch? There is none. It's just really great, affordable education with no hidden fees lurking around the corner. And
look, to be fair, we've been doing this for over 17 years now, so we've got a pretty good grasp of it. Now, the different study options, you touched on this a little bit earlier on, and that was the online self-directed and then the online with the virtual tutorials. If you could just do a bit more of a deep dive into that for us, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you opt into just online only self-directed learning, you're still getting the same content, you're still getting the same material and the same qualification, but you won't have access to those live tutorials or the recordings. So you can miss out on some really valuable information or support through there. So we do recommend that all students opt into those tutorials to have them available when you're ready to study, to actually watch them right before you do a unit. It can not only give you extra information, but it sets your mind frame ready for study as well. You watch your tutorial and then you get in there and get it done. So there's a lot of benefit there, and we do certainly recommend that all students take that option.
Excellent. And nationally recognised, of course?
It is, yes, which you'll be able to tell by the course code. If you whack that into any search engine, it'll tell you that it is the latest nationally recognised qualification. Absolutely.
Any prerequisites? Do I need a university degree or anything like that?
Do not, yeah. So it's an open entry course. As long as you've got the language and literacy and numeracy skills to go ahead with the qualification, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, great. And again, we probably touched on it a little bit, but you've been working in the educational advice team for a number of years now. You've worked with hundreds, if not thousands of students over that time. How long do people usually take to finish this course?
It is a hard question to answer because it can vary so much. As we saw, it's 795 hours in 30 weeks. Not everyone has that kind of time. So it's really about weighing up how much time do you have to dedicate to study, what else is going on in life, and all of those things. It can kind of be anywhere from 12 to 18 months in general. Others take the full 2 years, and some can go even a bit sooner than the 12 months. So there's a lot of variety in the finish time, just depending on how much time can be committed to study.
Okay, and look, just going back to the previous one with the online with virtual tutorials, is it still self-paced, or do you have to keep up with the tutorials each week?
It is all self-paced. So regardless of how you do your study, it's all self-paced. It would be unlikely that you would keep up with the tutorials because there's 12 units and they do a unit per week. So you're not going to keep up with doing 1 unit a week for 12 weeks and get it finished. It'd be very unrealistic to do so. So it's a matter of watching the tutorials, listening in, gaining all the knowledge, and when you're doing the unit, you watch that recording or you attend that tutorial. But it is all self-paced, either option that you choose.
Okay, great. And look, we've had a question come in, and I think it comes off really nicely as to, I suppose, describing what the role of an educational advice consultant is. and that's about pathways. Now, I understand that an individual consultant will work with a student, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, throughout their educational journey with mentors. So talk to us a little bit, I suppose, about the relationship between an educational advice consultant and a potential or current student, and then what pathways are available for students who have done the Certificate 4 in Accounting and Bookkeeping.
Absolutely, yeah. So particularly with this stream of courses, we do work quite closely with people, and it can be over a number of years that we are working with one individual student. And it's going to be a tailored conversation. There's no cookie cutter answer to that question. But I suppose if you're looking at really growing and developing yourself as that accountant or bookkeeper role, the natural progression would be into the diploma. So you gain some even deeper knowledge and build on those skills built in the Cert 4, so that's the Diploma of Accounting. We also offer the Advanced Diploma of Accounting as well, that some students will go ahead and do if that's what aligns with their career goals. Other students will be studying this for a particular industry and then will move forward to study more about that industry. So it's really going to vary, and that's why it's really important to have a conversation about what will suit you best.
Okay, great. Now, and just getting back to the tutorials, there's some great questions coming in, and I'm doing my very best to keep up with them. Now, with the tutorials, do we get access to them for the, I suppose, the whole time that we're enrolled in the course, and that gives us an opportunity to go back and look at the recordings, or are they run only once? I mean, what happens there?
No, you do. So they run on a 12-week cycle. So every 12 weeks, there's going to be a new recording of each unit, and you have access to them for the life of your enrolment. So at any time, you can go back and watch that. You may, by this stage, you're getting towards the end, you might be working in the industry and need to actually do something in the real world and go back and watch that tutorial just to give yourself a bit of a refresher on that information. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. And I think it's just a follow-up on what we touched on before, Iona, and that's about doing the units in order. We've got a bit of flexibility, I suppose, the way in which we move in and out of them.
Most definitely. As I said earlier, in as much as the course is a sequence course, and that's about developing the knowledge and skill to do the next thing. So, for example, the financial transactions unit is very important because that actually provides you with the knowledge and skill to actually do that in the next unit. But having said that, it can be done out of sequence if you really want to do it. But we do recommend that if a student is wanting to study the course out of sequence, that they book a one-on-one session with a trainer and have a planning session, so we can ensure that they have the basics, if you like, to be able to get through an out of sequence course. Yeah.
Okay, great. And look, with respect to the electives, I mean, there's 5 up there, and it can be a bit misleading, but are you required to do all 5 of those electives, or is there a bit of flexibility?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, so those 5 electives are locked in, and they're the ones that you have to do?
Yes. In this course, most definitely.
Okay, great. Well, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's session. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for some great questions. Iona, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to tell everybody about accounting and bookkeeping.
Absolutely. And before I let you off the hook, Danielle, if we do want more information or take advantage of tonight's tutorial enrolment special, where do we go? Who do we ask to speak to? What's the best place to start?
Yeah, so just get in touch, pick up the phone and give us a call. So that's 1300 306 146. You can jump on the website, which is just mentor.edu.au. Search us on Facebook, get in touch, speak with an education advisor, mention that you were here tonight, and we'll have a nice chat with you about what's going to best suit you.
Okay, great. Excellent. Well, once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. As we said, more information, head on over to mentor.edu.au. Feel free to reach out to myself, Danielle or Iona. We're happy to answer any questions that we didn't get to tonight. We can do that offline. And we look forward to seeing you all as students, if you're not already, very soon.